Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Micah here, and you might not recognize me because this is my first YouTube video. And some of my favorite part of life growing up is movies and TV shows. They've had a huge impact on my life growing up throughout the years, and I've always had my share in telling what I love about movies and what I hate about movies, and ranking back that which one I love the most. And some of my favorite movies, of course, are Marvel movies, and there's nothing I love more than the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's what we're going to be diving into today. But we're not actually going to be talking about the movies. We're going to be talking about a TV show, the TV show that just aired a couple weeks ago on Disney Plus, Loki, and specifically, we'll be talking more about episode 3 that just aired recently. So let's get into it. So since we're already in episode 3, I just want to start off on my review of the show as a whole. So I think the show has done a nice job at leading us into these new twists and turns and all our knowledge that we know of the MCU thus far. Endgame. One of my biggest questions and theories about Endgame was whatever came over Loki when we last saw him when we went back to Avengers 2012, and he steals the Tesseract. And where does that lead us in the MCU now? Especially according to what the Ancient One said about these new time anomalies and these new realities opening up with what happens with the stones and all that fun stuff. And this show kind of brought us into this little new depiction and kind of answered our question that we were going over as it takes Loki 2012 and brings him into his own new adventure, and it kind of changes and brings us into this new enforced timeline of this 2012 Loki, like going from the Avengers and straight into this new show like that we've and bringing him on the same track that we know of the MCU. Whether he's seen because this was before Thor: The Dark World happened, like before Ragnarok happened, before he knew that his mother died or anything like, and all that kind of stuff, and even Infinity War, his death in Infinity War. So it's nice diving into this new reality, looking at this 2012 Loki from Avengers and from Thor, and going into this new world and all that fun stuff, and also and we also get a new depiction at all this time travel stuff. We learned about the timekeepers and a world of the TVA, which hasn't really been explored yet in the MCU. I mean, we had time travel before this show came out, where we had Doctor Strange and all the time stone and all that stuff in Doctor Strange, and even the stuff in Endgame. So we know time travel exists in this universe, but we didn't know we didn't know the deeper story into all that stuff. We didn't learn about the timekeepers until this just aired. So it seems like so a new change of pace. So I think this also does great creativity since we didn't learn about the timekeepers and this new world order until now, and I like that because it all erases the, like, where does that mean? So this must be because this is even more powerful than the Infinity Stones, like, whereas we learned in episode 1, obviously, and even like time travel itself, like with Endgame and the quantum realm, and we saw in Endgame. So this is pretty big that they just brought us into, and even all the twists and turns that we found in these last 2 episodes, with episode 2 and 3 that we know of. I just so all overall, it's been an absolute blast, and what I love, and the reason I love it so much is because it's because just what of the world that these MCU TV shows are now looking into, because so far, like, these Disney Plus TV shows have been, so far, like, the Marvel Disney Plus shows overall have been just action packed and just eventful. Just stuff that, yeah, they have these kinds of things that you can't usually do in these TV shows, like especially well, I mean, first we started off with WandaVision, and that obviously, I mean, it was in its own little sitcoms. It brought us into this little sitcom side of things with this Marvel, with these kind of Marvel with Disney Plus shows, and it leaves you. It starts off at the end where you're thinking like, what is it that we're watching here? What is this? This is a sitcom with with two Avengers that we know of, and kind of brings you in. Kind of brings you into a world of confusion. Those first three episodes of WandaVision, and whereas where we get with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we start off action packed, and we have it's like this little kind of spy thriller, which is something. I mean, we've seen that in TV shows before, but this kind of action, all this kind of stuff that we see in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's just something that isn't really done very much. But and then we get to and then where we get to Loki, learning all this stuff about the timekeepers and the magic and this secret world of the MCU. This is pretty big because this is pretty big. This is like Endgame big. This is Infinity War big. The time because this is something. This is because this is holding over like this is holding in everything that we know about the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, already. Like all the time and space coming together in this series. Like everything we know, our knowledge of what happened in the first Iron Man up to Spider-Man: Far From Home, it's all done by the timekeepers, and that's pretty important knowledge that we're going over in here. So I don't want to dive deep in too much with the show. So we're gonna go ahead and get into my review, my take on episode 3. So what I really love about this, I'm gonna start off with what I love about this episode. What I really love is kind of the direction and new ounce direction that this episode has managed to take things after what we've already gotten in the show so far. I mean, the first 2 episodes they were a little bit of dialogue and they were more exposition about the TVA and the timekeepers and this world of the MCU that we've just discovered. And throughout, they've just been these hunting ground episodes. That I mean, episode 1 was kind of introducing Loki into the TVA and to bring us into this new adventure and catching him up with the world of the MCU. And then episode 2 was just kind of this hunting ground episode where we're on this journey searching for the variant and going through these different timelines and all this kind of stuff like that. Whereas this episode, it kind of brings us into these kind of fun dynamics that we usually see in the MCU, where we're seeing where we finally see Loki, the dynamics between Loki and Sylvie, and all that nice and fun stuff. And they have some pretty fun. I mean, the moments with Owen Wilson and Loki, those are a lot of fun dynamics there. But here, I kind of enjoy the dynamics between him and Sylvie in this one too. I'm not sure who the actress's name is, but I kind of love it. And it's also enjoyable enough that it does what I didn't think we'd do this early in this TV show, is that we see a little bit of her backstory. We learn about her mother, and we kind of learn about what makes her and how her powers work, and what makes her tick, how she uses them, and especially where we and even while as it's bringing us into those points, it kind of has a little bit of those fun mysterious elements that WandaVision had, like I explained earlier, how it just throws us into the mix with where we don't know what's happening. It's kind of where we also have that opening scene where she's at that cafe at that cafe with that old TVA employee, that TVA worker, and where we're like, what's going on? Why is she? So is this like her backstory? Like, and is this like as we learn get more and more into that little scene there? It's like, what's happening? And then we learn, and then we get back out into the real world, and then we're catching up like, oh, this take place on the new episode, the episode that we left off on. So just so overall, this is where we kind of learn this is where we learn a little more about how her powers work. This new Loki that we've just been introduced into, who we just met in the last episode. Now this is where we already start to learn more about her story and all those little nice elements in there. Another little element that I love in this episode is the action. Those obviously, of course, again in those first two episodes, not a lot of action. Just a little bit of exposition, and here we start to see some action. And what I love about the action sequences is how they also manage to, while they're fun, they manage to add a little bit of dynamics of humor into the mix, like where Loki's like messing around with that guy on the hand, where they're on the bus, and then he's thrown out the window, and then he throws the guy out the window, and then he's thrown out the window, and that kind of silly humoristic stuff, or even all the Loki stuff, a lot, and the dynamics between them, also a lot of fun. Where he's trying to talk to that, I forgot, what was it? That lady in the cabin with the guy, I forgot his name is. Where he's impersonating her husband, and then he gets shot backwards, and doesn't work out so well for him. All that stuff in there, it's just like it's like action packed while being pretty hilarious. I even love the action sequence in the opening with Sylvie and Loki. Just Sylvie just easily, she already starts tearing down once we get into the episode, and I just love that kind of stuff. It's just brings a huge smile where I'm like, yeah, all right, like just it just like elevates it. Just I'm an action man. There's my thing too. So what I also love, what I didn't think that we'd get into easily in the middle half is that where we learn a little bit of the deep not too much, but we get into a bit of a secret and secrets of who the TVA really is, and what we're dealing with exactly here. Of course, in the middle of it, Loki's having this little conversation with Sylvie, and where they're explaining, she's explaining to him her powers and how they work, and yeah, I think her name is Sylvie. All right, and she says that. She takes control of the girl's mind. She took the employee that we saw at the opening scene. She's just another variant. She tells him that she's just another, that they're all just a couple of other variants. The employees, the soldiers, all the guys working for the TVA are just normal guys working on Earth. And it's interesting because what we learned from those first two episodes is that the guys in the TVA, they were all created by the Timekeepers, so we didn't figure to come over that kind of stuff. That's where I was watching that opening scene, and it's like, so what is this exactly that we're watching? What is this, like, the girl's story that we're looking into here? And then we get this scene, and then it's just like, oh, okay, so now we're learning. So the question is, what does this mean? Like, what is it that we're about to go into here? Is that going to change? Is that going to change Loki's view on the TVA, and how are these new ounces and dynamics? Like, does Mobius know about this? Does Owen Wilson know? Yeah, Owen Wilson's Mobius familiar with this, but it's just like draws us into these questions about what could this all mean for the show, bringing us in forward. And that stuff I just love, especially going into that, especially where it leaves us off of that cliffhanger at the ending. It's just wondering, like, where does this go? Where is this story gonna go for Loki and Lady Loki thus far? Now I want to go into I want to go into the bad, and now I'm just gonna go head on into the bad here. So let's talk about it. Now, about this new series that we learned thus far. What surprised me is that where this show ties in, how this show ties in with how this episode ties in with the episode that we got prior. Whereas we're trying to figure out who this variant is and what this Loki looks like. In this show, I think the problem that draws in is that this show doesn't tie in with the other. Doesn't tie in with the other two very well. Of course, while I do dig the action sequences and the relationship dynamics that this brought to the series, I just don't think it ties. I just don't think it goes well with the plan with everything that we knew about the first two episodes. The first two episodes together, and because of course because instead of like hanging out at the TVA and traveling through these new timelines, we're in this own time. We're in this one timeline on I forgot what the planet was called, but we're just on this. We're just on in this one location where we have our hero, and he's now with this new ally, and well, not our hero, our main protagonist, and he's with this new ally trying to find a way to escape, and that just kind of draws off like it just doesn't tie in with the other two episodes very well, and I think part of that problem here is that it pulls us like straight off of the course of like who this lady Loki is and why she's doing this, because of course where episode 2 left me off on is like all these questions are like, oh, who is, wait, why are we getting a lady Loki in here, like what does this mean, like what does this mean, like another side of the multiverse tied in here, and but here it doesn't really draw into those questions very well, because it moves us straight into Loki and this new lady Loki working together and trying and just becoming these new buddies together, and the problem is we don't learn more about who this girl is and why she's doing this. Like we learn her name, Sylvie, but all we pretty much know about her is that she doesn't like the title of Loki, and she's a lady version of Loki, and she wants control. She wants control over the TVA, and but we just don't learn more about who she is. Like why we just don't know why is there a lady version of Loki, and why is she doing this also. So why is she trying to overthrow the timekeepers and the TVA, and and what does this mean, like we're getting a female version of somebody we've known for 10 years. Exactly 10 years we've had Tom Hiddleston as Loki for 10 years, and we're getting a lady version of this hero that we know very well, and it's just like, what does this mean? Also, like, what are you guys telling us? Like, what is this? What is this bringing us into? And we just don't learn much about why this lady Loki exists, and who is and what's her plan, and why is she here, and why is she doing this, and that stuff kind of like just irritates. It just frustrates me a little. Another problem is that there's just not much plot added to this. I wouldn't say there's just as much not as much plot, but I mean this show, it just doesn't. We learn a little about a deep secrets of who these TVA agents are, and how they're being pulled in, and just kind of the stuff that I kind of loved about the series. But we don't get any more. We don't get any more of that plot line. We don't get any more of that story in there besides these two. Besides this little escape story. And yeah, we don't learn more. Yeah, there's not much more about these bad. Yeah, of course we don't learn about the backstory. We don't learn more about who Sylvia is and how she got here, and yeah, and there's not any elements added in as to where we're going with the timekeepers and just tying ourselves into the other two episodes and bringing us forward into the climax. It just doesn't. It just doesn't bring us. It just doesn't bring us a lot of sense and intrigue as episode two did. And yeah, and Owen Wilson doesn't even show up in this episode. So it just doesn't. Yeah, so it doesn't bring it. It doesn't continue like on that. It doesn't continue on that sense of urgency and the story moving forward. Yeah, as to like it just doesn't bring the story forward as to who these as to who these people are, these timekeepers and the TVA, and just bridging the story like moving forward, and it just doesn't. It just yeah, it just keeps us in this little bridgescape area like at the moment where we're just like in this like little escape episode there. Yeah, and as I said, yeah, of course, as I said before, as I said before, it just doesn't tie. Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, it didn't continue. It didn't continue the level of intrigue that the first two episodes gave me. And when you're getting into episode three, like I believe we're in the second half. We've already passed the first half of the series as a whole. That's kind of a problem. It has the same. It has a bit of the same problem that Falcon and the Winter Soldier had, where they just left us on the where going into season three, they going into episode three, of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they didn't exactly give us enough. They didn't give us enough sense of intrigue and elements to the story as to who these flag smashers are and why and what their plan is and why they're doing this. And we don't learn much about that stuff. And we got in deeper with those elements until we got to episode 4 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But so far, when you're doing the first half of this series, you usually expect more. And I think that's a problem going into this episode as a whole, is that I feel like we could have done more. Like we could have actually tied in. We could have brought in Owen Wilson into the mix. We could have gotten more information about who this Lady Loki is. We could have gotten more plot and more story. Well, I mean, I say plot, but just more elements that fill in with the main plot of the story. But pretty much where this episode is going into the relationship of these two characters, but just not bringing us forward along with the story that we've already got on trace with. I mean, also, yeah, I mean it's only 40 minutes long, and all of it is just like this new escape story. These two partnering up together, and I just don't think that was real. I just don't think all that stuff was just necessary for episode 3. So far, I would say this episode, for now, it might actually be my least favorite. I loved a couple of elements about this show, about this episode. It made me smile. It made me laugh at a couple of times. But I mean, I'd at least give it like a 4 out of a 4 out of 10. Well, I mean, yeah, maybe like no, at least a 5 out of 10, maybe. But for now, it's gonna be at least in my bottom going along. But I absolutely love this show, and it still has me. Even though this one kind of drove me away from it a little bit, it has me a little bit. It has me excited for episode 4 coming up in a few days, and I can't wait for my next review. And so, thank you guys for watching. I know this was a spoiler review, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all. I'll see you all when episode 4 comes out. This is Micah signing off.